I nearly forgot to do one more thing in the garden, and it involves leaves and a very special rose. This is my Munstead Wood David Austin shrub rose, and I only have one. And unfortunately, I wish I'd bought more because it's no longer in production. You can't buy it from the catalog or at garden centers. I want to do everything that I can to make sure that I carry this through the winter and it does well, especially because it's a grafted rose. And a grafted rose simply means that it is a combination of two different roses. You have the rootstock on the bottom, and then you have the desirable plant on the above the ground. So the rootstock in this case is a variety called Dr. Huey. It's a very old variety. It's a rambling red rose, only flowers once, has horrible disease issues, but it's got great adaptability and great vigor. So you simply can't kill this thing. So that makes for a really good rootstock variety. And then on the top of that rootstock, they put the desirable plant. In this case, it's Munstead Wood. So the difference between a grafted rose and an own root rose is very simple. Grafted roses, if it sends up suckers from the roots, those suckers are going to be of the variety of that rootstock. So in this case, it would be a Dr. Huey that suckers from this. The downside of that is you run the risk of a potential takeover of Dr. Huey. This could someday become Dr. Huey if these sucker, and it just overwhelms the plant, and then the desirable portion of the plant dies back, and then I have a Dr. Huey rose. Then there's the own root roses. And own root roses are simply that. They are one rose variety. So if it were to send up new canes or suckers, it's going to be of that plant. So it's always going to be that variety of rose. And they oftentimes, own root roses are more expensive in the garden centers because they take a little bit longer to come to market, and they take a little bit longer to establish in your garden. So they might not be as showy as a grafted rose. So grafted roses are quicker to bring to market. You can get them to flower faster. So if you're looking for something that gives you instant gratification, a grafted rose is the way to go. If you're looking for something with longevity that can stay around for possibly 50 years, an own root rose is a great choice. Grafted roses, on the other hand, are not as long-lived, so about 15 years. So that's the trade-off there. But I make sure at planting time that I'm planting properly with that bud union. So the way to identify the bud union or the graft is it's going to be a knuckly part on the base of the plant where the rootstock meets those canes. So it'll be a very bulbous part. That is your bud union. So at planting time, I make sure that bud union is about 2 inches below ground. And you can check out that video on how I plant a bare root grafted rose up here. So that's the first step, is making sure that it's planted deep enough to protect that bud union. Then I go in the fall. In this case, this is the latest I've ever done it, about a week before Christmas, but better late than never. And then I like to pack leaves around the base of the plant just to give it insulation and protect the bud union from extreme temperature fluctuations. So that's all I'm going to do, is just pack this in really tight. I'm not going to cut it back. I'm going to leave this alone. I actually have a beautiful little bud up there that froze on there. It's so pretty. But I avoid using styrofoam cones. I think they're more trouble than they're worth. It involves having to cut your rose bush back in the fall. I don't want to do that, to fit it inside the cone. And then you also run the risk of that cone heating up inside on a very warm winter day. If the sun's beating on it, it can get really hot in there, and then you can fry the rose bush and cause it more stress. So I avoid that altogether, and I find that leaves are a free resource, simple to do, and it really gets the job done, and it's just another step to protect those grafted roses. And the thing about Munstead Wood is it's very prickly, so I'm careful about how I'm packing them in, and I forgot to put my rose gloves on, but I should be fine. I'm just going to pack these roses in and just kind of mound it up and give it a really nice layer of leaves. Well, that looks pretty good. I've mounted it up really nice, and it makes me feel better about being able to get this through the winter. You could also mound up wood chips. You could do compost, whatever you have on hand, just to give that graft union a little more protection. And the nice thing is when spring breaks, I can start pulling away the leaves and just spreading it into the rest of the garden and let those enrich the soil. And that's how I protect my Munstead Wood rose. So hopefully this will come through the winter just fine. It is in a protected site. It gets southeast exposure, so in the heat of the day this is protected. It's also protected from north wind, so it's in a nice protected area of the garden. Hopefully it'll come back. Every year's a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen, but I've done everything I can to get this through the winter, and now we just hope for the best and see who comes back. I have one more bag of leaves to put down, and I usually do it right around Christmas time. We have to go to the vegetable garden. Now, right around Christmas, I like to go in with my leaves and mulch. This is the very last thing I do in my vegetable garden. I like to mulch my garlic, and that does a few things for me. So I plant the garlic in October, and I'll link to that video below. But garlic gets planted in October. I don't mulch it yet because I want to make sure that those cloves have plenty of access to sunlight and that soil warms up and plenty of fall rain so that it gets a decent root system before I go in and mulch it. And what that mulch does for me, and you could use leaves as I'm doing here, or you could use compost or wood chips, whatever you have on hand. What that does is really help to moderate extreme temperature fluctuations in the soil throughout the winter time. So about 4 to 6 inches of leaves on top, and then once things start warming up in the springtime, like I do with the roses, I start pulling away those leaves to let more sun and moisture get at the garlic, and then eventually all those leaves come out and the garlic does its thing. And I've got garlic planting videos too that I'll link to at the bottom of this as well. So I'm just going to mulch this, and then I think I can officially say that I'm done with everything in the garden, I think. So I thought I was done a couple weeks ago, but we'll see. So I'm just going to mulch this, really simple to do, and that'll wrap things up. Garden 2023 is a wrap. I've buttoned everything up and done everything I could, and now we just wait to see who returns for an encore next year, and that's always a mystery to me. I mean, you never know what's coming back, and you hope for the best, especially for my Munstead wood. At least I know if it doesn't make it through the winter, I did everything I could to protect it. And if you're wondering about a rose that you have or one that you're considering adding to your garden, oftentimes Ownwood roses will have that in their plant description. If it doesn't say it in there, you can pretty much assume that it is grafted. But if you want to know for sure, do some research on the plant. You should be able to find that pretty easily on the grower's website. And Ownwood roses oftentimes are a little bit more expensive because they take longer to bring to market because they're grown from cuttings. Grafted roses, on the other hand, can be grown in about a year and brought to market within that time, and then flower pretty quickly compared to an Ownwood rose, which takes a little bit more time but has a lot more longevity in your garden. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please throw a thumbs up, would be great. Subscribe would be awesome. And if you never want to miss a video, you can hit that little bell and YouTube will alert you every time I make a post, which is usually once a week around Friday, Saturday. So thanks for watching, everybody. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one.